Hi, all you music lovers. My name is Andy Rodriguez, also known as the Blackspinner. And if you're new to our channel, what I am doing, I am going through my albums in alphabetical and in chronological order. And now I've been collecting records for over 20 years, and slowly but surely I've built up a pretty good collection. And now this is episode 12, so we are in the letter G. So please join me as we go through this journey of my album collection through the letter G. And please subscribe to my channel, and please leave a comment to let me know how everything is going. And as we start, let's start off with Rory Gallagher, Against the Grain. Now this is a pretty good album. If you are a fan of English hard rock of the 70s and guitar soloing, this is a really good album for you to enjoy. As you can see, the guitar takes up the whole album cover, and rightfully so. That's what dominates the whole album. Let Me In, Ain't Too Proud, Bought and Sold are some pretty good tracks, and also at the bottom it's a pretty good track. And Rory Gallagher is the lead guitar player and the singer, so this is pretty good. And next we have a band out of Boston. Now Aerosmith was not the only rock band to come out of Boston in the 70s. There was also a band by the name of the J. Geils Band. The J. Geils Band is a more of a hard R&B and hard rock outfit. They're kind of hard to pinpoint what kind of music it is, but it's very intoxicating and it's very tantalizing, their music. The songs on here that stand out also on my channel. Before I keep going, if you're new to the channel, I will also talk about key tracks on each album, and you might hear about some songs of some bands, some songs you're not too familiar of some bands that you like. So that's what this is, helps us do. So Sharp and Gotta Have Your Love. On side 2, Looking for a Love, Cry One More Time, and It Ain't What You Do, It's How You Do It. That's how this album ends. This is a pretty good album to throw on a Saturday night, and you got friends over. It's a pretty good album, keeps things going. Also J. Geils Band, Bloodshot. The songs on here, It Ain't Nothing But a House Party. Man, that's the way this album starts, and that's a rocking song, man. I tell you. Back to Get Ya and Strutting With My Baby. And I'm pretty sure you can tell just by the titles of the songs what these songs sound like. They come out with like a sexy kind of attitude towards them. Southside Shuffle, Start All Over Again, and Give It To Me. And if you guys have been watching my channel for a while, this is episode 12, and I'm pretty sure you already know I'm a sucker for the Double Live album. And the J. Geils Band does have one. It's called Blow Your Face Out. Man, that's what they do with this album. They blow your face off. And here's the inside of it. The songs on here, it's a double live. Southside Shuffle, Must've Got Lost. Must've Got Lost is one of their big hits of their early albums. Where Did Our Love Go, which is a really good rockin' stand-up of the Supremes' big hit. Love It Is, and the intro to House Party. And side 3 has the Detroit Breakdown, and side 4 has Raise Your Hand and Start All Over. Now this album, I don't know, produced, I'm not too sure who produced it, but I tell you what, when you throw this on, you think that you're in the middle of Boston, that you're right there at the concert, in the middle of the crowd at Boston Gardens. That's what this sounds like. It really does blow your face off. And next we go into a band that I was debating if I was going to go ahead and give them their own show like I have done before in the past with the Beatles and Bob Dylan and Deep Purple. But I thought, you know what, I don't have that many G's, so you will try to squeeze that in. And with that being said, let us enter the world of Genesis. And I do mean the world of Genesis. If y'all listen to Genesis, you know what I'm talking about. Genesis can take you on a long journey, and a wonderful journey it is. So let's start off. Album number 1 that I have, from Genesis to Revelation. Now, there's not too many songs here that stick out to me. I've only heard it a couple of times, and you can tell that it's their first album, and they're starting to get, there's little flourishes of what's to come. And on the album here is Peter Gabriel, of course, and Mike Rutherford, and Tony Banks, and a couple of others that will not be there that much longer, because there's going to be a big shift, not just in the lineup, but in the music of the direction they're going to go to. The second album is Trespass. They still have the same lineup as they did on the first album, which was with Tony Banks. Tony Banks, of course, was on keyboard, but Anthony Phillips was on guitar, and John Maynard was on drums. And this will be their last album with those guys. Mike Rutherford was not liking the direction that they were going. The only standout track on here is The Knife. And that song, The Knife, will turn up on a couple of albums, and it's going to be pushed to the brink by the 2 new members that are going to take over in the next album that I'm about to get into. In this next album, Genesis Nursery Crime. Now, Nursery Crime is the beginning of the second phase of Genesis. Comes in Phil Collins as drums and backing vocals, and also a very important part is Steve Hackett takes over on 12-string acoustic and all lead guitars. And I tell you, they take you on a journey at every turn here. This album is just their breakout album. It really is. Nursery Crime is their breakout album. And it starts off with a musical box, a 10-minute plus song that just takes you on this wild journey. The Return of the Giant Hogweed is another standout track. Harold the Barrel and the Fountain of Salamassus. That's another epic song that closes the album out. And they will keep this same lineup for about four more releases. And this here is said to be their best release period of all Genesis albums, and some might say even definitely of this period. Talking about Foxtrot, Genesis Foxtrot. This is a fantastic album. It starts off with a great track called Watcher in the Sky, and it ends with Supper's Ready. These are 2 huge bookend songs for this album, where Supper's Ready is a 23-minute song that ends the whole thing, and you say, wow, it's 23 minutes, but I'm telling you, you don't lose interest in the song, because there's so many changes. It's like so many different songs put into one, and they flow so easily together. You know what? I am going to mention the other tracks, not just those. Watch in the Sky, like I said, Get 'Em Out by Friday. But the two big tracks, the only ones that, I mean, just knowing that Supper's Ready is on here and Watching the Sky, that's just more than enough reason just to get this album. And next we have their very first live album. It's a single album by Genesis, and it starts off, right off the bat with Watcher of the Skies again, on the Return of the Giant Hogweed, the musical box, and again, well, like I had mentioned, The Knife on Trespass, it comes out here with a lot more muscle to it than it did on the original album, The Knife. And here is, I might say it over and over, this is my favorite Genesis album, this is my favorite Genesis album. So I might say it again for this one. This is one of my favorite Genesis albums, Selling England by the Pound. The songs on here, Dancing with the Moonlight Night. I Know What I Like in Your Wardrobe is just a great, it sounds like such a long pop song, but it is not. And there is a little paper insert here with the lyrics, which is pretty neat. Still intact. The Battle of Epping Forest and the Cinema Show and the First of Fifth is also another standout track. And next we have a double album by the band, which a lot of people believe that this is their best album. Genesis, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. This is, there's the inside of it. Right here, this will be the last album with that features Peter Gabriel. Peter Gabriel will leave, and he will go on to start a solo career. The songs on here are really good. The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, Fly on a Windshield, In the Cage, I'm talking about, and also the Carpet Crawlers, The Colony of Slippery Men, which has a little sweet to it. And this, I've been reading about it, tells a story. It's a concept album about by the main character's name, Rael, Rael, and he moves to New York City, and this is his story. I for one personally cannot follow it that way. I take it song by song, and I do enjoy it, but this is not my favorite one by them. But this will be the last one with Peter Gabriel, and they will look endlessly for a new singer, and they cannot find one. So they say, hey, why doesn't Phil Collins take over? He's relenting. He doesn't want to, but he goes ahead and says he'll do this one album because there was a time crunch. And really the rest is history, because we know what happens with Phil Collins and Genesis, and Phil Collins period as a solo artist as well. We talked about him when we were doing the letter C. But right here, A Trick of the Tail continues on their prog mastery of their music. And now this is a different lineup. It's just Peter Gabriel's gone, but the other four remain. The other four are still there. The only change was Peter Gabriel left. Here's the inside of it, and the inside of it is just full of lyrics. And the songs on here that stand out. This is a really good album, A Trick of the Tail, and that ends side 2. Robbery, Assault, and Battery. Squonk. Squonk is one of those pieces that are in the middle of the album. They take up almost most of the album, but you're like, man, I want to hear that song again. That's Squonk on here. And this opens up with Dance on a Volcano. And to me, the voices really don't change that much between Peter Gabriel and Phil Collins, because Phil Collins on these albums is singing with a lower register than he does with the later albums when they move more towards pop. Well, not pop, but just pop rock and away from the prog. And, there's always been debate, which one do you like more? Do you like Peter Gabriel more? Do you like Phil Collins more? For my money, hey, why can't we enjoy both and enjoy the whole thing of the whole career of Genesis? That's how I am. I just enjoy it all. I love both eras, and it's not fair to compare both eras because it's completely different music. It's completely different. You're going from prog of the 70s into pop rock of the 80s. And some fans of their prog, of their early Genesis, say they sold out and they did this and they did that. But, how many prog bands of the 70s went into the 80s and survived? There wasn't that many of them. So for them to change their landscape and change their music, not only did they conquer the world once with Peter Gabriel, but they conquered the world again with the Phil Collins-led version. Let me keep going because we're not even at that part yet. Just I want to get that out. I think it's very important that people should look at both sides of Genesis because there's so much to gain from that. Genesis, Wind and Withering, again with the current lineup with the four guys with just Phil Collins and Mike Rutherford and Tony Banks and Steve Hackett are on here. The inside of it, again, these lyrics are so long because the songs are so long. The 11th Earl of Mar, Your Own Special Way, All in a Mouse's Night, Blood on the Rooftops, and Afterglow. Afterglow is a big time Tony Banks keyboard workout. And we had mentioned earlier the first Genesis live album, which was really good, but this is my favorite Genesis live album, Seconds Out. And yes, it's a double. And this is fantastic. This has everything that was on the first one plus more. We're talking about Squawk, The Carpet Crawl, Robbery, Assault, and Battery, The 4th, the 5th, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Side 3 takes up all. Supper's Ready takes up all of Side 3. And Cinema Soul and Dance on a Volcano. This is a fantastic live album. I highly recommend this one. If y'all don't have it, stream it, buy it on eBay or something, because this has to be sat down and listened to. It's great. And that would be the last album that they will do with Steve Hackett. Steve Hackett will leave, and they will be left with Phil Collins, Mike Rutherford, and Tony Banks. And with the appropriate titled album, And Then There Were Three. And this still has a little bit of prog, but the songs aren't as long. And you can tell there's a little bit of pop rock going into these songs. There's the lyrics are a little bit more immediate. The lyrics are also a little bit more easier to understand. They talk more about more common things that are going on in people's daily lives. Down and Out, the story of Big, the Ballad of Big, but the big song on here is a ballad, Follow You, Follow Me, which ends the album. And I believe this opens up. Yeah, it does. And there we go again with all those lyrics. I've been noticing since I've been going through these, there's some pretty good packaging on these albums. And then we are hitting the early 80s. We are talking about Genesis, Duke. This was a big hit for them, especially in America. In America, their prog wasn't as big as what they're going to be with their pop rock. Songs on here. Let's see, does this open up? Yes, it does. Right there. This does open up. Paper insert. There's the album, but the songs on here Behind the Lines, Duchess, Misunderstanding. That was a big radio hit. That's something that always escaped Genesis, was a radio hit, and that was a big one. There must be some misunderstanding. There must be some kind of mistake. And Turn It On Again starts side 2, and Alone Tonight, and Duke's Travel. And there are a couple of long pieces on here still. They have not totally abandoned the prog yet. There's still long pieces here, just a little bit more uplifting, longer songs. And speaking of uplifting, Genesis Abacab. This was another big hit in America. Each album after this keeps getting bigger and bigger. The releases are getting bigger and bigger, and they start doing MTV videos. And like I said, into the world of Genesis, there's so much with this one band, and it's a shame that some people ignore a whole part, even if they ignore the first part of Genesis or part 2 of Genesis. It's a shame. It really is. Abacab, No Reply at All, is a fantastic pop rock song. Me and Sarah Jane, just the rhythm of that. Right here, Phil Collins is just taking over on vocals and almost on songwriting, drumming, and he is front and center on these albums. Man on the Corner. There's a man on the corner. What he's waiting for, I don't know. And here we go again. Another Genesis double live album. This one with just the three. Double live album. Here's the inside of it. Look at that. That's pretty neat. And the songs on here, they're pretty much shit, the prog rock on this double live album. They're saying, boom, this is us, accept it. And people do. And this is called 3 Sides Live because when this was released in England, this was released with 3 sides live and the 4th side was just empty. Well, on the American version, they do the 3 sides live and then side 4 is a studio tracks. Turn It On Again, Abacab. Abacab on here is a real workout. It is a workout between Tony Banks on keyboards and Phil Collins on drums. They just go off into a whole different world on that one. Duchess, Me and Mary Jane, Follow You and Follow Me, Misunderstanding, and they do have a medley of In the Cage on here from their previous Genesis incarnation, I guess we can say. And the big hit on here that was released was Paper Lake. That was on side 4. That was on the studio album side. This is a really good album. I really enjoy it. But I still do prefer to listen to Seconds Out on their double live album. And what's next is the title, Genesis, self-titled. This says Mama. I like that song. So where are you, Mama? Ha, 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 ha. I love it when Phil does that. Ha, 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 ha. That's all. Home by the Sea. Second Home by the Sea. Illegal Alien. It ain't no fun being an illegal alien. I love that song. Now, and track number 6, Taking It All Too Hard. They're really getting into their ballads, and they're really good. And the way that Phil Collins sings ballads, he sings it with so much soul and so much feeling. But yeah, that's a good album by them. And still, they're still climbing up. Right here, they will hit their peak with Invisible Touch. This conquered the world for almost a whole year. It felt like summer into fall of that year when I was, I might have been late elementary, early junior high. No, maybe early junior high. You know what year was this? 86. So 86, I was 12. Yeah, so I was right there in the middle. And MTV was big, and they were making MTV videos, and that was huge for them. Songs on here: Invisible Touch, Tonight, 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 Land of Confusion, Into Deep, Throwing It All Away, which is one of my favorite Genesis songs, period. Anything she does is kind of lighthearted. Domino is a suite, which has 2 different parts, which is a long music workout. Yeah, it's pretty good. And that concludes my Genesis. I told you guys it was going to be a run. It was a nice journey going through that. I really enjoyed talking about Genesis and listening to Genesis. If y'all aren't too familiar with Genesis, you can go to any streaming device and just type in Genesis and just hit play and find out what different genre, what different eras these songs were from. It's pretty fun. But let's move on. David Gilmour, lead guitar player for Pink Floyd. This was his debut album. This was released somewhere between Animals and The Wall, which was a big time for Pink Floyd. They were riding high, and then for him to step out and make a solo album. There's the inside of it for David Gilmour. this is pretty good stuff. You know, it's what you would expect from David Gilmour. Not that many songs. Maybe There's No Way Out of Here and Cry from the Street. Raise My Rent and No Way stand out to me. Now, if you're familiar with Pink Floyd, of late Pink Floyd, like after Roger Waters leaves and there's a lot of female backing vocals, that's what you're going to expect from here. Because, you know, even though they held the name Pink Floyd, you know, David Gilmour did take over, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, every band needs a leader, and David Gilmour was that for Pink Floyd after Roger Waters left. And this would be his second release, About Face. This is about the same as the first one. You know, there's no surprises here. He just keeps on going with the same pro quo, and this was released in 1984, and there's nothing wrong with, you know, just staying the course of what he knows what to do, and what he knows to do is sing good lyrics with a really good voice and fantastic guitar. A guitar player that when he plays, you know distinctly, man, that's David Gilmour. And what we have next is something that's a little bit outside of my range, but every once in a while I do like to listen to 70s soul, and Gladys Knight and the Pips. I bought this one out on a whim, and it's okay. I was expecting it to be a little bit more, and because there are better albums by them, and it's okay. We move on to a Swedish band. I think they're from Sweden. I'm pretty sure they are. Talking about Golden Earring. This was a little earlier one. I wasn't too familiar with it. It was a good price on it, so I grabbed it. And maybe Why Me and Nomad, both on side one. They're both songs are over 7 minutes long, so they stretched it out a little bit, which is, you know, okay with me. You know, there's nothing wrong with long songs. It just means more music, doesn't it? Now, this next band hails out of Flint, Michigan, which is a very dear city to me because half of my family and half of my relatives live in Flint, Michigan. Hello to all my cousins up there. I hope everybody is doing well. I'm talking about Grand Funk Railroad. On Time. This, you know, I don't know if this is their debut album or if the red one is their debut album, but nevertheless, they were both great. They could have been released at the same time to me. Are You Ready? Time Machine, High on a Horse. But my favorite song on here and side 2 is Heartbreaker. Heartbreaker. And just, you know, the way Mark Farner just takes control with his band on vocals and that heavy guitar and just going off on some guitar solos. It's just, you know, with Mark Farner, there was a time that you had no idea which way their music was going to go. It was going to go any way Mark Farner wanted it to go. And what we have next is Survival, also by Grand Funk. And the songs on here, All You Got Is Money, Feeling Alright, I Want Freedom. And they do a really good version of the Rolling Stones' Give Me Shelter, which ends this album. One thing about Grand Funk Railroad was that, you know, even though they were a boogie rock band, but their lyrics were very much against the war in Vietnam, and they spoke a lot about their feelings about it. Next we have by them is Closer to Home. This has my favorite song by them, of course, which is I'm Your Captain. It's almost a 10-minute epic of just beauty, of just beautiful music. Sin's a Good Man's Brother, Nothing Is the Same. Mean Mistreater is really good too. And I Don't Want to Sing the Blues. This is a really good album to put on. I mean, you could just put the needle down or press play or however you listen to music and just let it go and you'll enjoy it. And what we have next is, I don't know how to pronounce this, In Plubis Funk. But look at the album cover. It's like a coin. Pretty cool. And the back is like a nickel. And released in 1972. Just like a coin would say. And here's the album, which fits perfectly in there. And the songs on here, foot stomping music is good. People, let's stop the war. I tell you, they were very loud about it. They did not hide any qualms of how they felt about things. And Save the Land and Loneliness. Those are some pretty good songs. And check out the back. I mean, the insert of it with the three guys. And yes, this was a three-piece band, but man, they sure did sound louder than a three-piece band. That's weird that there's so many three-piece bands that you swear there's more than just three, because they sound louder than a four-piece and sometimes even more than a five-piece. Sometimes you see a five-piece band and you're like, oh, what's that person doing in the band? Next, by Grand Funk Railroad. We're not done with Grand Funk. No, not by any means. Phoenix. This was my first album I bought by them. I bought this in a little album smoke shop out there in Cypress, Texas, which is a suburb of Houston. And it's down the street from my work. And I stopped. And sometimes I stop there and look through their albums. And sometimes I get surprised. But most of the time I'm disappointed. But I was very surprised with this. I took it as a gamble. Flight of the Phoenix. She Got to Move Me. Rain Keeps Falling. I Just Gotta Know. Freedom is for Children. And Rock and Roll Soul. I really like this album. This is, when you buy an album on a whim by a band that you've heard of, you say, you know what? Everybody talks about them. Let me give them a shot. And you buy one album, you're like, man, I gotta get the rest of this. That's how I felt with this. And here is a album that my Uncle Rene had doubles of, and he gave it to me. Shine On. It's a pretty good album. I really enjoyed it. The tracks on here that stand out to me were Mr. Pretty Boy and Little Johnny Hooker. And this also has their version. There was a really big hit for them called The Locomotion, which was a cover of a song back in the early 60s done by a R&B singer. I believe her name was Little Eva. And I really didn't like the song of the version by Grand Funk, but recently I really changed my mind about it. And there's been a lot of music that I've changed my mind about and just been not so critical and just sit back and just enjoy music. And that will do it for my Grand Funk. But we move on to a Canadian band. The Guess Who. This is called Canned Wheat. I think this is their second album. This has Laughing, Undone, and Key. And No Time Left for You. This has Randy Bachman on it. Remember, on the letter B, Bachman Turner Overdrive, I spoke about them in length. Well, this was his previous band, The Guess Who. And another one I have by them is called Share the Land. This one's a little bit different from what we expect from them. Let me see. Share the Land was alright. But again, when I reach for the Guess Who, this is not one of them. No, sir, it is not. But what is something that I reach for them is their greatest hits. This is a really greatest hits. If you just want to hear the Guess Who's hits, which they were more of a hit band, a hit song band than a complete album band. And the songs on here, these eyes are crying, these eyes, I'm Laughing, Undone, No Time, American Woman, and No Sugar Tonight, New Mother Nature. Side one is just complete classics, top to bottom. And when you get a greatest hits, that's what you expect. Side two, Hand Me Down World, Share the Land, and Hang On to Your Life. Side 2 is a little bit, you can tell that there was a change in the music. And what we have next is Appetite for Destruction, Guns N' Roses. This album is one of my favorites of all time. It is in my top 10, definitely top to bottom. It's fantastic. There's the back of it with the guys. There's the paper insert for it. Now, it's funny because I didn't buy this album. I was not really dating a girl, but you know, I was her friend back in Corpus where I lived, and I had asked her if I could borrow this because there was no need for her to have it because she, please. So I went ahead and kept it. You can't blame me. And the next that I have from Guns N' Roses is GNR Lies. This has side. Oh, you know what? Hold on. We can't just put this away. Album tracks on this. Let's go. Let's do this. Welcome to the Jungle. It's So Easy. Night Train. Out to Get Me. Mr. Brownstone. Paradise City. Side 1. Epic. Side 2 starts with just the ugly song. My Michelle. Just riff, and playing it just dirty and hard. Think About You, Sweet Child O' Mine, which was their big breakout hit for them. You're Crazy and Anything Goes and Rocket Queen. Yes, I mentioned every song, and rightfully so. And it ends with Rocket Queen. That's just a great song. Just Slash and Axl and the guys were just on fire for that album. So now we get to GNR Lies, which this was, I don't know if it was rushed out or not, but I really enjoyed it. Side 1 is a live album, and there's the back of it, Live Like a Suicide, pretty neat. And of course Reckless Life is on here. Nice boys, don't play rock and roll. Nice boys, don't play rock and roll. And Mama Kin, which is a Aerosmith cover, and Move to the City. And there's the insert of the guys. It's pretty neat. And also side 2 is all acoustic. Side 2 is acoustic, and that has Patience, which was a big hit for them. It's still a big hit. You can still hear it on classic rock radio. That one, Used to Love Her, and You're Crazy is done again in acoustic fashion, and it sounds really good. I really enjoyed it. And last but not least, the last album for the letter G. I got this just for the one song. It's an epic song, and a lot of people hear it on Thanksgiving. And Alice's Restaurant. This is a great song. I know there's other songs on here on side 2, but I really don't listen to them. I just enjoy Alice's Restaurant, and Alice's Restaurant is 18 minutes and 20 seconds of an acoustic song, and it tells a great tale. It's fantastic. I really love it. Well, I really hope that you enjoyed this episode of the letter G, and I hope that you join us for the next episode, which will be the letter H. And please don't forget to subscribe, and also please leave a comment. And as we go to the letter G, we will be talking about Jimi Hendrix and George Harrison and Huey Lewis in the News and others that fall in between. Thanks a lot for watching, and take care of yourselves and keep rocking.